짝짝. That's a bit German.
Following travel developments from Paris, and Alinda Labropoulou is in Athens covering Greece's plans. Good to see you both. Melissa, let's start with you. How will this special pass for vaccinated Americans and other tourists work exactly?
So the idea, first of all, the priority for Europeans is to be able to get themselves across each other's borders. And what we've seen over the course of the last few months are all these restrictions have essentially made that really difficult. Essentially, the European tourism industry has been at a standstill after that small reprieve we saw last summer, Rosemary. So the priority is to create a European digital passport that will allow people to show that they've either been vaccinated or are immune because they recently had COVID-19, and therefore to be able to avoid the kind of quarantines that have really made things difficult these last few months. France also now looking beyond May 15th to start reopening terraces, museums, all of those things that have been shut here, Rosemary, since the month of October. The idea is that even as Europe starts to get its vaccination programs a little bit more up and running, trying to improve the pace of those, that at least the free movement of people will begin to increase. And with that, some much needed help for Europe's battered economies, Rosemary.
It's a great step in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So it's a great step in the right direction. That means, that's really, no matter how small it might be, and at least gradually, we've been actually trying to get our economy back on the track, and trying to actually get back to normal, right? At least we're actually, waking things up. Yeah, this is really the right move, right? So what has been just said is, Americans are now, expected to at least receive a special treatment in the case of their vaccination. First, if you're really American, you might actually have a vaccinated, and then you can actually, fill out necessitated documents to obtain the European vaccine pass. Then you might be allowed to go to Paris, because France is really the country that decides to join this move to open their borders to any tourists right now, mostly from the European continent and America, if these tourists are vaccinated. And if these immunization can actually be confirmed, then they were probably in the near future allowed to visit France. That would be possible. But it has been just announced, but not right now. This is only in the preliminary phase, because starting from the May 15th, the gradual changes are about to go into effect. So we're not actually seeing this event right now. This would be a matter of time when we need to at least wait for a couple of more weeks to see this effect in France. Because, the entire European tourist section was literally in paralysis, or literally. It truly came to a standstill. The tourism industry was completely suspended, except a very short reprieve during the last summer. That was really the only exceptional period. We actually witnessed the very brief pause that actually opened up doors to many different tourist attractions for a while, but that was only a very brief amount of time. It's very interesting because, after that initial trial, they had to actually shut their doors down again because they actually witnessed a very significant amount of infections growing in their country, in and outside the area. That's really the reason they had to put an end to the short reprieve, right? So right now, what France is planning to do is literally probably allowing people to visit their country without going through a quarantine period, if and only if these tourists somehow obtain or secure their vaccination status. Alright, that's really the thingy. I really need to think twice about it. Let me actually repeat this case. France is gradually trying to open up their borders. The whole notion is allowing people to drop by their countries because France's number one industry is tourism. This is the meal ticket for France. So, as you probably have noticed, that last summer's very brief reprieve was really the only moment they witnessed what would be the closest to normalcy in the industry. After that, they had to shut their borders down because of excessive growth in the number of infections, and they were devastated after that, right? So the month of October, they actually witnessed another significant surge that completely had the France economy suspended, right? That's really the case. Because the whole situation came to a standstill means France had to grind their economy to a halt because they could not find other mojos. Because they've been greatly preoccupied with suppressing the number of infections. Otherwise, this would go out of control further. So any tourist, especially from Americas, or the European continent, they were probably given a OK sign, if and only if they can present the vaccination pass. The corona vaccination pass is really like immunization card in the traditional sense. If you ever actually attend American public school, the first thing you need to do is, present your immunization card to say that you've been actually fully inoculated against a major contagious disease like, German measles or rubella or meningitis like this, right? Or polio. Just like that, you actually, submit vaccination pass. This is really like, downloading an application. You complete the documents, and this would actually be confirmed by medical authority in your country, so they can actually guarantee that you've been fully vaccinated. This is not really a fraud, but you've been actually really given a shot, so you are pretty much good enough to be believed to be safe when it comes to affecting other people or getting infected with the coronavirus, and you are good to drop by France, or you can actually go to roam around in Paris without having a 14 days mandatory quarantine. So far, this 14-day mandatory quarantine had been a great trouble for many tourists. Who can afford this, right? If you really actually want to take a trip to Paris, think about it. You need to actually spend 14 days in isolation. Would you like to do that? That's a big turn down, and that's a deal breaker for many. So no one even thought about traveling in Paris because of this restriction, right? But now, if and only if you present this vaccine card, right, so-called a vaccine pass, then you're good to visit. You're good to loitering around in Paris without having further restrictions imposed on you because of the coronavirus lockdowns. Because this is really a desperate trial, because the entire industry has been on hold. But this is really the lifeline for France. That's really the reason why their sugar daddies from America should have come to France and open up their wallets. That's very important. That's really the thing. It's a fine. What am I missing? Is it difficult? I don't really know. Dieser wird also sozusagen eine Impfung passen. Impfung passen wird vielleicht in kurzer Zeit nicht nun oder im Gegenwart, aber in kurzer Zeit wird eine Meister Trumpukata. Solange sie wirklich geimpft wird gegen Coronavirus, besonders dieser amerikanische Tourist oder Heiser, right? Dann können sie vielleicht in näherer Zukunft, besonders von Mai 15. Mai 2021 ein Reisen machen nach Frankreich. Diese wird möglich, ja, nicht nun, ja. Aber diese wird nicht im Moment, aber in näherer Zukunft. Ja, diese Impfungspass ist eine Bestätigung, eine Urkunde zu bestätigen in Impfungsstatus. Oh, sie wird voll geimpft gegen Coronavirus und können die staatliche Behörde wirklich unterstützen diese Dokumente. Dann dieses Dokument, das ist da. Das ist sehr wichtig. Ja, aber ich immer noch bekam eine interessante Nachricht. Ja, interessante Nachricht an diese manipulierte Impfungspasse. Ja, können Sie wirklich kaufen diese Impfungspasse auf dem Internetnetzwerk? Diese wird möglich? Weiß das ich nicht. Ja, aber jedoch, Frankreichs eigene Industrie wird voll ruiniert werden, ist das so? Aber Sie wissen, dass Frankreich ja wirklich ein Land ist, dessen Wirtschaft meist von Tourismus abhängig ist. Deswegen dieser Schritt gilt als das Wichtigste. Vielleicht, besonders so, bekommen ein Tourist oder Reiserin und Reiser, ja, aus Amerika mit Geld, kling, katsching. Dann, diese wird sehr wichtig. Vielleicht, and I really actually needed this one. Starting from May 15th, museums or tourist attractions could possibly be open to or could possibly be available for many tourists. Even actually, when domestically too. Inland tourists could possibly actually visit or even actually take a visit to these areas, right? So far, group gathering or, any type of crowd would be not allowed. So many of the public spaces were closed. But this could possibly be opened. They could actually resume their businesses. All right. Basically, the whole idea is really letting people, cross the borders and, travel or make a visit or take a trip to different countries. These are really the fundamental notions. Because of this, France expects to see certain growth in its economy. Otherwise, the whole system would remain in coma. It's really like vegetated status. Paris is really, especially the city, that gets fueled by tourists, right? How many people would rely on gastronomy and hospitality? Almost, according to one statistical data, it was like a more than 70 percentile, literally. I don't know, 60 to 70 percentile, that was really the number. Ja, diese wird sehr, 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 aber sehr schwer zu verstehen. Aber nicht inhaltlich, aber diese voraussetzende Theorie, ja. Solange sie wirklich voll geschützt werden gegen Coronavirus durch dieses Impfungsmaterial, dann können sie wirklich freiwilliger besuchen im Lande wie Frankreich. Dann ist das so gut. Aber wahrscheinlich, diesem Impfungsmaterial wird allmählich zu wirklich reduzieren eine Reproduktion oder Replikation des Virus. Das wird eigentlich schon präglich, oder? Aber dieser Heise hin und Heise werden nicht so schwer gekrankt werden. oder schwer betroffen werden beim Virus. Das war klar. Aber was kann ich nicht so verstehen, ist, dass diese Nummer, Reproduktionsnummer, wirklich niedriger gehalten werden bei Massimpfung. Das ist ein bisschen umstrittener. Wirklich, ich glaube, dass das eine weitere Recherche befordert sich hatte. Ja, ist das so? I'm really sorry, but I don't know what else I can actually say that. If I ever actually go back to English, the whole notion is really like, allowing people to at least, travel freely without actually going through serious, bureaucratic red tape. Think about it, how cumbersome this might be. You need to at least, stay in this country, more than 14 days in quarantine. That means you should never be allowed to go step outside this designated place. Then after that, you can actually be a free tourist because you've been actually confirmed that you're virus free. That's really, really demanding. So many actually give up their plane because they cannot sustain that status, right? They cannot afford that type of quarantine period, right? And who would like to do that? But this would be a fuel to resuscitate the industry in paralysis. The tourism industry could truly appreciate this new movement, right? So long as you obtain this, digitalized immunization card, which is called the vaccine pass, then you can actually, freely travel across the nation called France. Then isn't that really amazing? But that would actually, go into effect gradually. It is still expected to be the case. But this is really a prediction, but not yet fully confirmed. Not yet. This is in practice. Americans are expected to at least, receive a special treatment to visit France, so long as they obtain this immunization card fully digitalized. So it could actually be up to date, verified. So, if any French, border controller or any authorities at the airports or at the stations might actually look into this vaccine status. Oh, you've been actually twice, vaccinated by Moderna? Okay, like this. Your status, and you had no history of being infected with the coronavirus, then you're good to go. You can actually hop on your TGV. That's a fine. Or you can actually, get into the Musée Louvre. You can actually visit Louvre. That's a fine. Yeah, isn't that so? Isn't that so? This type of removal of restrictions would be so amazing, right? Otherwise, how could one ever imagine the resumption of tourism? As I have already actually mentioned, that the main cash cow of France is really tourism. No matter how you actually wanting to focus on agriculture, that's still secondary. France, what actually gets a France tick is tourism, especially it's a capital, Paris. This luminaire, la vie de lumière. This a city of light really needs a people to get shine out, right? To get itself shined out, or to have itself shine out, right? Is that one? The thing is, starting from May 15th, we could actually expect to see the gradual opening up by removing or lifting up this lockdowns and closures, and even actually inland, or even foreign visitors could possibly roam around the city's tourist attractions. They could possibly enter into the museums across the city. And that kind of normalcy could be visible within the near future, on the condition that these tourists from America, especially, would have obtained their own vaccine card. Yeah, if they can actually somehow obtain the digitalized vaccine pass, then they could be good to stay in France without having 14-day mandatory quarantine. This could be, a foregone conclusion. Because so far, that had been the major hurdle to be overcome. No one even actually liked the notion in the past. But now this would be, no more headache to many. Because if they somehow, if you think about it, if you're living in New York, so you actually, already got vaccinated twice at the Javits Center per se, then you could probably think about spending your summer holiday in France. This would be feasible. This would be plausible. Isn't that amazing? Without even actually, staying 14 days inside a very packed up, isolated, middle of nowhere station. This would be possible. Then you must actually, fulfill this, requirements by closely contacting the public health authorities in your country and in the European Union, right? Because they would actually have a network to verify the status, so no one would actually manipulate it by presenting a forgery. Oh, it's really kind of, definitely there are people who are really good at manipulating this application so they can actually somehow present in a forgery or a counterfeit. That's a possible, right? I actually saw certain articles saying that there are people selling Impfpass, that's vaccine pass, on the internet. If you actually go to the internet, you could probably purchase it as possible. I don't know. I'm not really so sure how refined their technology to detect this type of fake one. I'm not really so sure. But what can I say? Diese wird eine Impfpass. Das ist digitalisierte Immunisationskarte. Das ist da. Wirklich. Es gibt keine sehr neu. Ja, wirklich. Das ist nicht Neues. Etwas Neues. Ich glaube, alles wird ganz gleich und there isn't really saying like that. Under the sky, everything is really the same. There's nothing seriously new. And what can I say? This is a really traditional immunization card, the yellowish one you might actually carry. Now, it's been actually installed and digitalized and it would be fully up to date. That means it could actually be aktualisiert wieder. Diese wird es voll aktualisiert wieder. Das meinte, en français, ça s'appelle mise à jour. Tout à fait, sans hésitation et le status est vérifiable. Mise à jour. Ja, that means, the cart, diese Karte wird aktualisiert geradeaus. Das meint, es gibt keine unterschiedliche Zeitschritte. Das meint, die Behörden können akquirieren oder erwerben die jüngste Informationen, wenn es einen Impfungsstatus oder Impfungszustand gibt. Denn diese Personen wirklich im Moment, wirklich nun oder im gegenwärtigen Moment wirklich geimpft würden und diese würde sofort wie möglich bestätigt würden oder dieser beauftragte Antrag für Impfungsstatus ist der digitalisierte Impfpass. Das ist da. Punkte, Periode, klipp und klar. Ich glaube, bin ich hier ein bisschen punktegenau. Diese nagelneu oder niegelnagelneue Technologie würde gar keine Kopfschmerzen. Nur einen Mittelfinger zeigen wollte. Naja, das wäre, was ich wirklich machen könnte.